bang, 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 as
Wow.
loud as I could. They were so close.
And you were up on a hill.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere.
nowhere.
Yeah, like there's not neighbors, there's nothing there. You know, instinct just kicks in, and all I'm thinking of is literally the dead has come out of this cellar and it is chasing me up these stairs. I didn't even bother looking.
Okay, on this episode, we are going to talk about all client experiences that are shocking, fun, enjoyable, and everything in between. So this is going to be a great episode. If you want to hear some of our fun stories from over the years of practicing real estate, stay tuned to this episode of The Den.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show dedicated to exploring hot topics in real estate, local happenings, and industry trends. We're a small team of professionals approaching $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 local transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to The Den. Today, we're going to talk about a fun topic, and we have the luxury of being able to work with all kinds of people in our careers, all walks of life. We get to experience the joy, the pain, the sorrow, the triumphant moments. But before we dive into some of those experiences that we're going to share with you today, I do want to introduce the Lyons Group, who is some of my best friends and partners in this industry. And so we can kick things off. We got Paul, Hammy the Rock Berry to my left. We got Melissa, let's go, Glasgow. Aspen, the Ninja, Groen. And we have Shannon, the boss, Martin Martinez. Welcome to this episode of The Den. And today's going to be a fun one. I've been looking forward to this because as a realtor, you get to experience all kinds of, I would say, emotional moments with buyers and sellers. I mean, it really is. The whole process of buying and selling can be emotional for a lot of people. And today we're going to talk about some of the most shocking stories that we have from over the years and maybe some fun ones. I definitely want to end on a fun one. I've got a good one I shared with Paul the other day, and I want to share it with everyone. But I think I'll start. I'll kick off today. Are you guys good with that? I'm going to kick off the stories. And this one takes me back about 20 years ago. Shannon and I were new in the business, and we were still, actually, you're more of a veteran than I am, Shannon.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
He's calling you old.
No. That was a polite way to say you're seasoned.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And so, for those of you who don't know, Shannon and I have been working together, well over 2 decades now. And this takes us back to early on in my career, 2002. And I was a new owner of a boutique real estate firm, and Shannon worked with me in that. She did a lot of the office management stuff. She sold. You were basically the broker to a large degree. And so we were still kind of learning the ropes on a lot of different aspects of real estate, but it was a fun time. We grew a lot. But having said that, I just preface that to say this: we had an interesting client, I should say clients, that came to our office out of nowhere, and they began working with a new realtor that we had, Brian Size. And if Brian, you're listening to this, we love you. And this will take you back a lot of years. Now, how old was Brian, Shannon, back then?
I think he got his license at 19.
19 years old.
He was very
he
young.
was selling real estate. And let me tell you, that kid is
smart kid.
Very smart, very sharp. And he's a fantastic young man. And so this, let's just say this, there was 2 individuals that met with Brian for the first time. And what was unique about this is that they just called him out of the blue, and they met up with him. And let's just, for namesakes, there was one that was a little bit shorter. We call him Little Timmy. And then we had a gentleman that was a little bit taller. We'll call him Big Tom. And they met up with Brian, and they came from Albuquerque, but I think they came from Vegas to Albuquerque. They were very eccentric, but they did show up and they said, hey, we want to buy. We want to buy now. We want to buy cash, whatever we can buy. And they were jumping all over the board. I mean, everything from $100,000 properties to $500,000 properties. And Brian was like, whoa, what do I do here? Well, they came in and showed a duffel bag and a briefcase full of money.
Oof.
Like hundreds. And there just wasn't something that was quite right about these two. I mean, Big Tom would never really talk, but Little Jimmy was the talker. So he was just a mile a minute, just smooth talking, fast talking, and he was all over the board. But Tom really never said anything. So Brian begins working with him. And at the time I was like, well, I mean, there's certainly some red flags, but who knows? Work with them.
They have money.
They got money. They proved it to us, right? So Brian began working with them. They ended up buying a little property here in Farmington. I think it was just over $100,000, a small property. They drove their Cadillac to closing. They showed up to San Juan Title and with like a briefcase full of money. And I think San Juan has changed their policy because of that incident where you can only have certified funds. But you remember the stories where people are like, hey, they tow my car. I'm going to show up with, 16 wheelbarrows full of pennies and you got to accept it because it's legal tender. It was one of those situations. So they ended up closing on that property. And so that added some legitimacy to them being buyers. And so the next thing I know, they're talking to Brian about purchasing a commercial property. And Brian just came to me and he just said, this is way beyond me. Can you work with them? I said, sure. And so I started talking with them. Well, they had found a commercial apartment building in Miami that the asking price was $3 million. Again, this is back in 2002. And they wanted me to call the other realtor and negotiate him down to $2 million. So $1 million off, 33% off the asking price. They wanted to close in 30 days and they didn't want to put up any earnest money. And so for those of you who have done commercial real estate, you know that a 30-day closing that is so rare. You got so many hoops to jump through. Long story short, I ended up, against my better judgment, calling the realtor in Miami and saying, hey, I've got these cash buyers. They want to close on this property. No inspections. They want to offer you $2 million, close in 30 days with no earnest money. And there was kind of a long pause, a long silent, like, what in the world? And I could just see the other realtor's face. And he goes, let me talk to him. And I went, whoa, well, that went way better than what I thought. And I got a call back and the realtor said, I think we can make this happen. To my surprise, the realtor called back and said, I think we can make this happen, but we do need some earnest money. Like, we just can't do this without earnest money. So I got back with little Jimmy and Big Tom, and they were all in. They were supposed to wire some earnest money. Next thing you know, they just disappeared. And I never heard from them again. I mean, there was some rumors of what had happened, but they just dropped off the radar. So it was an interesting experience. It was a learning experience for me with clients. But long story short, that was a fun one because they did end up closing on a deal. But gosh, we ran through some interesting channels and it was a learning experience altogether. So that's a fun one to kick off. Paul, you got any fun stories you want to share?
When you brought up this topic, there was a couple that I have that would be perfect, but I don't think we have the audience for that.
Yeah. May not be appropriate.
No, may not be appropriate at this time. A few years back, I had a land listing out in the county. And I got a call from a realtor and saying, I have buyers that are very interested in it. They want to walk the property. So I gave this realtor some directions on how to get there. We're not understanding what I was saying. It was landlocked, so there wasn't a road to get to it. So we finally decided that I was going to drive them in. And they followed me. We parked in this. I mean, it was pretty much in a backyard out in the county.
I think I remember that.
Don't ruin the ending.
Oh my gosh.
Did the realtor wear Uggs to the showing?
Don't ruin the ending. Don't ruin the ending.
This is a good one.
So we get out there. I drive them in. We're in the backyard. We have to cross a couple of acres. We're worried that people are going to break into our cars. And this land is by the river. At a certain point, the realtor, I won't say who, the realtor says, yeah, I'm not going back in there. Can you show the buyers? So for about 45 minutes, I am walking these people around. They're asking everything under the sun. I have no idea. I'm like, this is vacant land. You can do whatever you want. What if we put something here? I go ahead. They were a very nice couple. I can't remember if it started to rain or not, but I do remember we walked through the mud, the muck. I mean, we walked for forever. Showed them the entire property. We come back. The realtor was standing in the same spot on her phone, It was Melissa.
Yeah. And was Melissa wearing Uggs?
Pink Uggs. Did not want to get them. Did not want to get them dirty.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But I mean, it was, and they didn't buy anything, did they?
They eventually did buy, but an already built house.
Yeah.
So it was well worth the connection.
Yeah.
They were looking to build something, but I just remember that picture of walking out of the woods.
Out of the way after tromping for like 45 minutes.
Seeing her there, freezing cold, in like a puffered vest, pink Uggs, just standing there going, "What they think?
How'd it go?"
That is so funny that you brought that one up.
That's awesome.
That was I hadn't shown land before.
Yeah.
And like you said, it was landlocked. And some of the neighbors were like, don't you go 1 inch into our property because, like it was a very hostile situation. And these guys like knew stuff about land that, like I'm more of a city girl. Right.
Yeah.
And so thank goodness I got Paul as the listing agent. He was able to show me. And
he had his boots on.
Here I was in my Uggs. I'm like, okay, it's cold. I'm going to at least be warm, right? And then I get out there. It's like,
I'm not going anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny because that land was part of a family feud. I never sold that land either.
Oh, yeah. So they have signs up like we shoot first and ask questions later.
Well, these are the type of people that don't have the signs.
Oh, yeah.
That's
they
so
just
funny.
shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's an awesome story. And some of the stories are great because they involve the other realtor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the fun too, is because a lot of the time thinking back, I'm like, a lot of these fun stories involved the other realtor that was like, whoa, I don't know what's going on here. Here we go. Yeah. In fact, the one I'm going to share at the end has that component in it. But Melissa, share a story with us.
Not about me.
Well, so whenever we go to make showing requests, there's always private remarks that we as realtors look at. And in the private remarks, it says, keep your hands away from the birdcage. Cool. No problem. In my mind, this is the middle of town. Okay. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, cool. They've got like a cool, like a macaw or, an exotic pet.
A cockatiel, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the smaller the bird, the bigger the bite, right?
Yeah.
It's like a dog. So like, okay, no problem. So we're out there showing the house and, the seller was there for the showing, which was totally fine. It was a really beautiful home. And then I'm sitting here wondering, well, where's this bird cage? Maybe they got rid of the bird, not really thinking anything of it. We go outside and there is a raptor cage because it's a falcon.
Yeah.
And it's like the kind of raptor cage like that you see at the zoo, right? Where it looks like prison bars. And it's in my head, I'm like, well, no freaking kidding. Don't put your hands in there.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. Yeah. I want to keep all of my digits.
Yeah.
But then the fun part was, as we were kind of finishing up the showing, seller comes out with a tray. It's dinner time.
Oh, wow.
Falcon.
Did you stay?
We did a little bit. He was just the nicest guy too, and he's telling us about how one time, the falcon went out for a flight.
Yeah.
Or a jaunt.
Yeah, a jaunt.
Yeah.
And then he was missing for a couple of days.
Oh my God.
So there's a really big falconer. I think that's what they call it. What do they call it?
Yeah, falconer. I think so. Yeah. I think that's a proper, isn't that a proper word?
Don't look at me. I have no idea.
Falconry. I know falconry is.
Yeah. So, they all got together and they found his bird and everything. And while he's telling us this story of, who knows what that falcon ate on
I was like,
his journey. Yeah, I'm thinking like small dogs.
Oh my gosh.
He's eaten some, I don't know what it was, but I was just like,
wow.
And it came from the kitchen.
Yeah. So he was in there chopping up a hen.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was a really fun one because it wasn't really what I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I mean, I worry about kids and stuff, for a good reason. They put those remarks in there.
Yes.
Little toddlers or something walking around. And
But having the luxury of going into people's homes as much as we do, we see a lot of stuff that people keep in their homes that most people don't see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Really quick. There was another one. My stories involved animals, but there was another showing and I knew there was dogs there because there was kennels on the outside. I was like, no problem. Looking through the house. I'm like, oh, dang, they took the dogs. I love it when dogs are present. I just love it. So we go into the garage to show the garage and there's, those little blue kiddie pools. It was a puppy bed. Like there was brand new puppies in there.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
I was just in love. And I was like, that's so cool. Like I would never do it, but just want to know, can I come back and pet your dog?
Yeah.
When their eyes are open, can I come see them again? So it's really cool. It is a really cool luxury, like you said, that we have to go into people's homes and stuff.
Luxury and sometimes a burden.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes a burden. So, great story, Melissa.
Yeah.
Aspen, share something with us that may be shocking or fun.
Yeah. So I was trying to go through different stories. I was like, I've had birds be flying in the house, been chased by little dogs, got keys stuck, all the normal stuff I've walked in. There's been a big pile of like guns on the table, like all the compromising situations with people. Yeah. So all of these crazy things. And I was like, oh, well, I'm pretty hard to get like
rattled
up. Yeah. I'm kind of just like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
But I had one. It was this couple who I'd never met before. They wanted to go see some vacant land. And normally for vacant land, I just tell people, just go drive by, go check it out. If you like the area, we'll get more information on it. But a lot of the places that they were wanting to see in Durango were gated communities. So we had to be able to, unlock the code. And we don't want to just give the codes to random people, obviously. So I was going around with them. They were in their own car and we were going to see a lot of them in all different areas, which again isn't uncommon if they're coming from out of town and they don't know where they want to be.
Sure.
So they said that, oh, we're up here already, which was by Cascade. And they said there was this land that we wanted to see up Cascade a little bit. And it wasn't on the list, but we were near it. So I could understand why they would want to go see it. So they were in a car and I was in like a bigger Bronco. So I was like, okay, perfect. Let's go. I'll follow you.
Yeah, sure.
So they end up parking and it's a dirt path. So they say, we're in a little car. Can we just hop in with you? And I don't know why. I just got like a gut feeling like, no. I don't want them in my car. Which I've driven people around before.
Yeah.
I just got a bad feeling and went against my better judgment, which I normally never do. And as we're like driving up, I'm thinking, okay, they said it's right past Cascade. So I'm thinking right past it. We are driving and driving and driving so far.
Up a dirt road. Middle of nowhere, way up in the mountains. And I saw these people like camping and I'm like waving like, hi, I'm here. Notice me if I don't come back in this car. Yeah.
So I'm like, and I had no cell phone. Like we were so far, I had no more cell phone service. And so we get there and it's actually not land. It's this abandoned cabin. And so I see and there was a for sale sign. And so I see this lady's, sign. And I'm like, you guys go peek through the windows and I'm just going to call her. So I'm faking that I have cell phone service. I'm pretending I'm on the phone with her. And I'm like, her assistant's trying to get a hold of the sellers. I'm like being really loud and they are so far away from me, but he's like, just come look in this window. Come look over here. And I was like, he tell us what you think. And I was like, no.
Was this just like an abandoned cabin, like antiquated, like falling down? And
it wasn't falling down, but it was old. I mean, it was a pretty relatively nice property, but totally like off the grid cabin. And so I'm so far away from them. Like, no, I'm on the phone. You guys just keep peeking through. And then I ended up just telling them, sorry that she couldn't get a hold of the seller, so we can't go and see the inside of the house, but let's go check out the other stuff and maybe tomorrow we can meet up here and I can get you guys in the property. So I'm thinking then people will know where I am. I could bring somebody with me. So we get back down the mountain, they get in their car and I'm like, okay, let's go see the other ones. And they're like, no. And they don't go see any more properties. They don't want to go see. It was very weird.
Yeah. Did they drop off the radar?
Dropped off the radar. Never heard.
So you never heard from them again.
They didn't want to go see the other because we'd only seen 3, 4 maybe.
Yeah.
And we had like a handful of other ones on the other side of the mountain to go see. So after that, they didn't want to go see anymore. And they just dropped off, which granted, I did not try and contact them. Just got a bad feeling in my gut about it. And they could have been perfectly lovely people.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people don't realize as realtors, I mean, it can be a scary position to be meeting someone that you don't know at a vacant property in the middle of nowhere. I mean, especially for ladies.
Yeah.
Guys just I think we're kind of born with a sense of like, we don't turn our back on people a lot. It's just kind of a natural thing. Ladies, very much in this profession have to be careful because there have been incidences. That's scary, especially because they didn't fall. I mean, that was it.
Yeah, it was very weird.
They got their shot and they didn't get it.
Yeah. And I think men need to be, in this industry though, it's 50-50 really, men and women for safety.
Yeah.
So, and I think because you guys aren't used to being so having to be like, oh, my gut says.
Yeah. Sure.
Red flag, I could see how it could be dangerous for men to just being like, oh yeah, I'll go look at.
Sure. Let me lead the way. Yeah.
Because my radar was going off. I was like, I want to get away from these. And like I said, they could have been fine, but it was.
Right.
Well, the fact that you were playing like you had cell service was a smart move.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that you didn't go over to the home.
Oh, I wasn't even close. I was like a football field away. I was like, get over there.
I'm going to have a good head start down this road.
Pretty much. I'm not a fast runner. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I think we're going to have an episode coming in Halloween time of some more scary, because we've had over the years realtors that have shared with us stories, and we've experienced our own stories of really, haunting, spooky things. But that's not for today. Shannon.
Well, maybe I have the wrong story then.
Well,
I was kind of, I have a spooky story.
Then let's do it. Hey, we can have Halloween early.
Right. Well, I got a couple spooky ones, so I'll save the other one for Halloween.
Okay. That sounds fair.
So I had this house in Flora Vista, and it was vacant, and it is literally at the top of a hill. You go this winding, treacherous road up the hill, and it's just sitting at the very top. And I needed to go over there and just grab some room measurements, just jot down some amenities, things like that to get it ready. And so I headed up there, and, as I'm going up the hill, I'm just realizing how isolating this house is and how far away from everything that it is. And, going into a vacant house is always scary when, you're entering a house and it's been vacant. You don't know if anybody's broke into the house. You don't know if somebody's,
sure,
got something planned. You just don't know what you're going to run into.
Because we've had that happen before where you've gone into homes
and you find
and people have broken in.
Yeah, they're staying there. Yeah. You just don't know what you're going to get. So I go in the house and I do like a quick walkthrough of the upstairs that had a full basement, and the basement was really closed off and dark. And I go through the upstairs and I do all my stuff that I'm doing, and then I head downstairs. And the longer I'm downstairs, the more comfortable I'm feeling. It's got a den and a couple of bedrooms and things like that. And I'm doing my measurements and stuff. And I get over to the garage area. It's kind of like a small little hallway. You go down, and they've got almost like a canning cellar on each side, and then the garage. And I can see this, but I can't find the light switch. And something just says, "Don't go any farther." Don't go any farther, And
did you get the hair kind of going on the back, like the tingles?
Yeah. And you just listen to those things. So I thought, I don't need any information in there. I'm just going to stop. So I turned around, and as I headed up the stairs, they had one of those stairs that kind of goes down and turns and then goes down again. So I get up the first landing, and just as I turn, I have never in my life heard the loudest footsteps, just bang, 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 as loud as I could. Right. They were so close.
And you were up on a hill.
Yeah. In the middle of
nowhere.
Yeah. Like there's not neighbors. There's nothing there. Wow. And so, instinct just kicks in, and all I'm thinking of is literally the dead has come out of this cellar and it is chasing me up the stairs. And I didn't even bother looking. I'm not even going to look behind me. I just know I have to run for my life. So the steps don't stop no matter how far away I got. I got as far as I could. I just took off. Up the rest of the landing, I got all the way to the top. I went through the kitchen, through the dining room, through the living room, ran out the door. I literally just slammed the door behind me so I can maybe have another second. And I'm running for my life thinking somebody needs to know I'm up here. So as soon as I hit the door and I'm outside, knowing that I'm not close to anything, I'm still going to try, Yeah. And I start as loud as I can, just screaming bloody murder, heading for my car. And I'm going for my keys, trying to think I just got to click my door open. I've got to do something. And as soon as I round the corner and I get to my door and I'm finally safe enough to look back, I can see that this poor little lady, City of Farmington worker is opening the utility box. She's trying to close it, and she's bang, bang, bang. And it's literally.
Gosh.
I'm thinking it's somebody behind me in the house.
Oh
and
my gosh.
I'm so humiliated. I am sweating, almost wetting my pants.
I'm sweating now.
Oh my gosh. Screaming my head off. And as soon as I see her, I stopped, and she's like terrified.
Yeah. Like, what
she
are
doesn't
you
know
doing?
What's chasing me. Yeah. And
Well, when you're describing that, it's like, you've had those dreams where like you cannot get away from whatever.
Literally.
I bet this was the time she was binging The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Sure.
Right. So I'm just thinking, literally the dead is chasing me out of the basement area. There was nothing behind me. There was nothing in the house. The lady was terrified of me. She had no idea why I was so crazy. And as soon as I saw her and I realized what was going on, I just started laughing. And then she really thought I was crazy. And then I had to go over and explain to her what I was doing and apologize for this scene that I just unfolded in front of her. I did go back, lock up the house, left, and went back and told everybody in the office that it was the funniest thing I'd ever done. And luckily, she was the only one that actually saw it unfold. So she's probably told somebody out there before. And that poor lady, I do still owe her an apology.
She was probably just as shocked. Like, oh my gosh.
She had no idea. Yeah, I really did, though. I really did believe, because that's always our biggest fear when we go into a house, is the fear of running into something in a vacant house and you're all alone.
Yeah.
And, you don't know how to defend yourself. And I really at that moment thought that someone was going to get you with me.
Well, save that second story because again, we're going to do that come Halloween time. But I want to end on a good one. I want to end on a fun one. And I didn't share this one with you, but you may remember this one. I was selling a property and it was out in the Bloomfield area. And this lady, I believe her husband had passed. So it was just her. And she lived on I think about an acre. And I want to say the home was about 24 or 2,600 square feet. And she was selling the property and scaling down. And we had normal conversations. This was many, many years ago. And so we get all the way to the day before closing. I run out to her property to I think, take my sign off or something to that effect. And I remember walking in and I went, Miss Seller, we'll just call her Mrs. Seller. Yeah. Mrs. Seller, you haven't moved a thing. Not a thing. Hasn't touched one thing. And she had lived in that home for, probably 20 to 30 years. Mm-hmm. And you know how that is. When you live in a property, you just collect stuff constantly. And the poor lady was just, I shouldn't say the poor lady, bless her heart. She was just going through a lot. This was such a big thing for her. She just broke down and she said, Ben, I've been praying and just praying and praying that my stuff would get moved. And here we are, we're going to close tomorrow. And I'm still praying. I'm just holding out hope that our stuff's going to get moved. And I said, it's going to be okay. And I walked out and I said, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's not going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. So I called the other realtor and I said, we've got a major problem because the buyers are showing up the next day with moving trucks, like ready to move into this property. And I said, here's what's going on. Here's what, I'm going to clear my schedule and I'm going to go over there tomorrow, I think 9 or 10 in the morning and just start helping her move. Like I didn't know what else to do. And so, that night, I just couldn't sleep. I was just so worried about her and the whole situation. It was just, tough for the buyers. I didn't know what the conversations were with the buyers. I'm sure they were pretty heated or whatever else because they're expecting to move into this property. So the next morning, I drive out there and I pull up to the property and there are trucks and there are cars everywhere. I walk in, I think it was like probably 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and 90% of her stuff had been packed up into the trucks.
Cool.
Her entire church congregation showed up the day of closing. And so we worked for a few more hours and she was out. And she told me again, stopping, I have been praying and praying and praying that my stuff would be moved. And let me tell you, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And the power of faith is real because I had no idea the church congregation was even in on it. The buyers showed up. I think even the other realtor showed up. So the buyers helping the seller move out. It was an awesome moment. It was shocking, but it turned into a memorable time. Yeah. We got her moved out and set in a new place. And those are the cool stories, right? Those are the things that really matters when you have an impact like that on people. And she had an impact on me. And I just went back to, you know what? You got to have faith sometimes. You don't know how it's going to happen. And she never wavered on her faith. So that was pretty cool. So that was an awesome discussion. We've only got a couple more minutes. I do want to do a speed round real quick because in real estate, and I'm probably talking to other realtors, because especially the new realtors are getting into this business. Sometimes they feel like they don't know whether to be authentic or more polished with their experiences with people. So I'm going to go around and ask each one of you, what do you think is more important when you're working with a client, more authentic or more polished? Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that definitely depends on the client, but I try to be more authentic. If they're asking questions, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. Don't necessarily have to have the answer right away. But I think more authentic gives more credibility to your experience and knowledge.
Yep. Great answer. Yeah. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Authentic all the way. I really base my model around relationships. So the more I can build with that person, the more they're going to trust the situation, because we all know buying and selling is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And there's ups and downs, and they have to know that you've got their back.
Shannon, what are your thoughts?
I think I'm always authentic. I think that people hire us to do a job. They want truth. Sometimes they don't want the truth from us.
Yeah.
but that is my job. It's not to tell you what you want to hear, is to tell you the truth, is to let you know what I would do in that situation. I always give people the choice and say, well, this is what I would do if it were me. But, of course, this is your investment and you may have different motivations. I like talking about those things with people. I like feeling a connection on a real person to person basis, as opposed to just being a professional. I try to be professional, but I feel like if they can relate to me, and if I can relate to them and their specific situation, then we have a better chance of meeting their goal the way they want it met, rather than if they feel like maybe I'm just a salesperson. Yeah,
great answer. And I think for me personally, I have an authentic base. I'm always authentic, but I do put a little bit of a polished side. My wife jokes with me. She says, I can always tell when you're talking to a client, whether they're a friend or family or whatever. I kind of switch into that game mode where I'm on point and talking business, but they know it's authentically me. Like, they know that I'm working for their best interest. They know I'm doing what I can in a professional setting. So, and we do owe our clients both, in my opinion, authentic and professional. Great discussion today. Thank you all for joining in on that. If you want to find out more about the Lyons Group, go to sjcbroker.com. Below this video is a description. You can reach out to any one of us. If you reach out to any one of us and want a free buyers or sellers guide, we got the best buyers or sellers guides. We're going to send that to you for free. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, the Lyons Group Four Corners Real Estate Facebook to keep up with current happenings. Next week, we are going to talk about, next episode, we're going to talk about online valuations. Are they worth their salt? So we're going to discuss that and more in the next episode. And thank you for joining us today in The Den. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed on real estate happenings. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group, visit sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in The Den.